This presentation is brought to you by the West Virginia Behavior Mental Health Technical Assistance Center. The Behavior and Mental Health Technical Assistance Center is made possible through a collaboration between the West Virginia Autism Training Center at Marshall University and the West Virginia Department of Education's Office of Special Education and Student Support. Today's presentation is titled Self-Care During the Coronavirus Pandemic. Our presenter is Terrell Jones, Behavior Support Specialist with the West Virginia Behavior Mental Health Technical Assistance Center.
All right, thanks, Jim. All right, as Jim said, my name is Terrell Jones, and I am a Behavior Support Specialist for the West Virginia Behavior Mental Health Technical Assistance Center. And we are a partnership between the West Virginia Autism Training Center located at Marshall University and the West Virginia Department of Education. Today's presentation is going to be reviewing stressors caused by the coronavirus, the loss of normalcy, stress and resilience, the importance of self-regulation, and self-care strategies for you and your family. Now, March 2020 will for always be known throughout the generations to come to be the month where all of the schools in America shut their doors on account of the coronavirus outbreak. And because of this, a lot of us during that time, especially the first 2 weeks, probably felt very overwhelmed. Just that overwhelming feeling. I know I did. I know the first day, I just kind of sat there like, what just happened, when I had to set up shop in my bedroom, actually. And I know a lot of us, change is good. Sometimes we need change in our life. But the change that we just experienced and we're still experiencing is this unknown change, the change that we have no control over. We didn't have a choice in this. It just happened. And so that is where it creates that feeling that we have. It's the newness of everything. And on top of all of this that we're experiencing, for like teachers, social workers, school counselors, administrators, y'all are trying to take care of the students that you love, at the same time taking care of your children that you love in your household. And so that adds on a different stressor. So by the end of the day, when you've got about this much self-care left, you try to take care of yourself. That's why now more than ever, self-care strategies are so important, and so important for you to basically take this radical approach more than ever. And it's like, as long as we're not like mosh pitting, we're not hurting ourselves or other people, and we're keeping that physical distance, not social distance, but physical distance, self-care then really is whatever it is that works for you at the end of the day, to get you through that day, or actually, believe it or not, to get you sometimes through that minute. So whatever self-care works for you. It could be, if you need to at the end of the day, sit for 45 minutes or two hours and just sit and watch Netflix or watch the first season of Friends over and over again. If that's what works for you, good job for staying alive. That's self-care strategies. But I'm also going to give you some more strategies that you can use during this time of the outbreak. So as I talk to people, I'm a talker, I love to talk to people, and a lot of people are sharing with me a lot of these feelings that they're having, a lot of emotions. And it's really important that, we don't stuff down the negative ones. We're really like, I feel excited today. This is great. This happened. I feel happy. But whenever we feel guilt, whenever we feel shame and anger and frustration, a lot of times we tend to like stuff them down. But, eventually they're going to come out. And often it's in ways we behave or say things that we wish we hadn't have said. And it's hard to take those back once they're out. And so this is a really important time for us to just give ourselves that permission to experience that loss that we felt if there was a trip, that we had planned for a long time, and we can't take it now because of the coronavirus. Or this actually really did happen. The frustration. I was talking to somebody, and their son spent a lot of time getting to this doctorate program at Marshall University. And they bought the cap and gown. They sent out the invitations for the graduation party 2 days before coronavirus. All right, 2 days. Then they had to cancel it at least, until some unknown date. And this person was really upset about it. And I asked her, I said, just give yourself that permission to feel that. And also just the little things that, give yourself permission to feel sad about, the everyday things in our life that we don't have. This is going to sound funny, but I've talked to so many people, and it's like my Clorox wipes. You know, how many times have I gone to go get my Clorox wipes and I don't have them anymore? And you kind of like, this is not normal. This is a feeling of sadness. And so it's important that we label them, that we actually identify them, we allow ourselves to experience them. And most importantly, though, when we hit that wall, when we feel it, it's important that we settle into what self-care strategies that we're going to use to get us through this. All right, and so I'm not sure if any one of you has not had the privilege of listening to any of Brene Brown's YouTube videos, TED Talks, podcasts. I strongly suggest that you do. She's one of those people that when you're down, especially if you feel a loss of something or you're sad, she's that go-to person because she always seems to have that right word at that moment. Like, oh, I needed that. Please look her up. Well, I was listening to to prepare for this, I was listening to one of her podcasts that she actually did from her home. So I was excited. I got to be in Brene Brown's home, and it was on comparative suffering. And so I have that there for you so that, on some spare time, you can go and listen to that. It's a pick me up. But she talks about this loss of normalcy that I want to share with you because it's really important, especially now. It's so right for the times of today. So she talks about in a crisis, we have this like adrenaline surge. We're all pumped up, we're focused. And think about the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks when you had to set up shop in your home and you had to get everything prepared so that you can go and start teaching your students remotely, in addition to taking care of your kids. And so this adrenaline surge kicks in. You're focused. We're all connected. We're working together. We're asking, what do you want me to do next? What's the next task? And we're so busy doing this that we don't really notice that our trustworthy normal life no longer exists. And it's like 2 weeks later after we've had time to sit down and that adrenaline surge wears off, we kind of just sit back. And that's kind of where we are now, a month after. We kind of just sit back and say, what just happened? And we look around and it's like our new normal feels abnormal to us. And this actually is a sense of, it can cause stress. And Dr. Bruce Perry, who I'm going to introduce to you next in this video, he has a saying about the not knowing. I'll just quote him. He says, the unknown is more anxiety driven, even if the known is bad. And I think that hits home for where we are now, because, we find ourselves asking the question then, is it ever going to get back to reality again? Is it ever going to get back to the way it was before? It's that unknown. And you hear on the news over and over again, the coronavirus, is it going to go away? Are we going to get it again in the summer? Is it going to come back in the fall? So it's that unknown that can cause that stress. And we need to be real about that stress. But we also, while we're being real, we need to also have some self-care strategies that we can use to help us through that process. So this slide is an important slide because it's about stress. And you can't do a self-care presentation without talking about stress and regulation. So when you have stress, it's important to know that we have good stress. Good stress motivates us, keeps us focused. But on the other hand, there's always two sides. We can also have that stress that makes us feel fatigued, exhausted, panic, anxiety. But what's really, really important, though, when we look at this slide, is that not every person perceives. How we perceive stress and how we react to stress is completely different from person to person. And so to prepare for this, I actually was talking to some people about the stress they're going in. And some people were saying, 1 week, I feel great. And then the next week, I feel exhausted. I just heard somebody 15 minutes ago say, Sundays, Mondays are really hard for me, but by Thursday, Friday, I'm on it. And that's very normal. It's natural that we go back and forth, and people are saying, I've never experienced this before, but these are different times. And so what happens is I was talking to somebody, and this person is an avid reader. And she was saying, I read all the time, but I can't anymore. By the end of the day, I am so spent. I can't take in any more information. I no longer read. That's stressful for her because that used to be a self-care strategy for her. And then another individual that I was talking to that's a social person, loves to be with people, talk to people. But by the end of the day, he said, I have nothing more to give. I'm having a difficult time connecting. And this is where they are at their stress level. And so I asked them, just we need to be aware of where we are so that we know, maybe on Sundays I can start my self-care strategies so that come Monday, Tuesday, I'm a little bit more ready to go. My energy is a little bit more, higher in energy, and then, or if you know that Wednesdays or Thursdays are hard for you, or in the afternoons are hard for you, maybe you can pump in some of these self-care strategies I'm going to share with you to get you through that. So the question that I have for all of you listening is, where are you on this bell curve? Where are you? Where are you today? Where were you yesterday? Where are you Monday? And where were you before COVID-19? And where are you now? And zero in on those days, those hours when you're going to need to have a little bit more self-care for yourself and for your family. Now, I really like this slide because it shows that, we all experience stress, but stressors that are unpredictable, severe, and prolonged, kind of like what we're having now. We have these, sometimes, we don't know, we're dealing with new stressors in our life. And I just talked about how it's prolonged. We don't know if, when the coronavirus is going to go away. We don't know when it's going to be lifted in the state of West Virginia. And we know possibly in fall our kids are going to come back, but what does that mean? It's unpredictable. And with that comes vulnerability. And this is the whammy. This is the no. We don't want to feel vulnerable. But if it happens, it's natural. It's normal when we have unpredictable stress in our lives. And with invulnerability, it affects our emotional challenges. And when I go through these, think about how if we experience this on certain parts of the day, certain parts of the day, or certain hours, when we're vulnerable, we have those emotional challenges where we have that depression, like that individual I was just talking to you about with the social. He has a difficult time connecting, even though he's at heart, he's a social person. It affects our cognitive, our difficulty concentrating, problem solving, physical challenges where sleep disturbances is really big. A lot of individuals with sleep disturbances, and also our eating habits. If you're like me, when you're stressed, I go right for the carbs and I go right for the sugars. But what that does is it gets you on a high and then it gets you down. And so when we're vulnerable, and that's why it's important that we work on how we cannot be vulnerable, how we can get resilient. And then there's social challenges, the isolation and the loneliness. But if you look to the right of the screen, we have hope, because if our stressors in our life, if our stressors in our home, which is where we spend the majority of our time now, if they're predictable, if they're moderate, and if we can control them, we have control. We don't have control out there, but we have control in here, and we have control of our bodies. And so if we can control them, we can create this resilience in our life. So what is resilience? And we all have our own definition of resilience. So I just want to pop this up here. So when we travel on through this PowerPoint, we'll be on the same page. I like that. So, resilience means that you can focus on your strengths, focus on not your weaknesses, but your strengths. And that's really important. Like, I got this, you can get this, girl, you got it. That's really important. It's also, for resilience, it helps you to stay focused in that action. It helps you to problem solve. It helps you, really, really important. It helps you to build your support system. And if anything is really prevalent with resilience, is that support system. A lot of times when we work with children with trauma and toxic stress, when I do PowerPoints, I really hit hard on that relationship. And Tiffany Hendershot did too on the last webinar that she did on Thursday. It really is about that relationship and that social support, because resilience, sometimes it just takes that one person that really has it, that just loves you, that you are their rock star. And that's such an important concept. So then how do we keep this resilience? As I said, as before, resilience is about having that control, a control of our stressors. One really good way to do that is to have a schedule that promotes normalcy. All right, to have that schedule. And I just went on Google and I got this schedule. And a lot of you probably already using them, because a lot of educators and school counselors and psychologists and social workers, you guys are actually pros at this. But I still want to go over it, because sometimes we put it on the refrigerator and then we forget that it's there, or we get off track. So I just kind of like a little tickler, a reminder that if you have one on your refrigerator, it's not always bad. It's actually a good thing to go back and revisit it. And because sometimes we can get off, or sometimes we can start off strong, and then when we go back, and then we have our little happy home is no longer a happy home. It becomes a home of chaos or irritability. And that's a sign of stress. And so that means sometimes we might have to go back to our schedule and then basically figure out, and I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they said, they were starting strong with their schedule. But what happens when they went back, and they had to go back to it because it was, they got off track, and everything was, their home was starting to become, their children become irritable. And they found out just by changing when they had their kiddo do his homework, his schoolwork, and they changed it from the afternoon to the morning. And so they had to tweak it because we're dealing with different situations. We're dealing with different circumstances. A schedule, when we have expectations so that we know what we're looking for, so that our children know what we're looking for. When we have routines, it's like a guide, and which are two of the critical things to have, consistency in our home. If you just think about, your classrooms and how important this is. If you think about when you were in your classrooms in schools, if you didn't have a schedule. And so that's why I always say it's really important that we have one. And if you do, which probably a lot of you do, go back and revisit that, especially if you're having a lot of stress behavior in your home from yourself or even from your children. Self-regulation is extremely important. I'm only going to spend with one slide on it, though. You can actually do a whole PowerPoint on self-regulation. It's that important. It's the backbone of any type of self-care that you're going to do, whether it's working with children coming from toxic, stressed home environments or just from us, living in stress during the COVID-19. But in a nutshell, when we're regulated, which is important, we are using our upper brain. Alrighty, so we're able to think things through. We're able to make a plan, stay healthy. Our heartbeat is at a pulse that's, our heartbeat is at a balanced, it's at a calm, it's at a healthy heartbeat. We're calm and alert. But anytime that our mind and body feels stress at any time, and it could be stress of hunger. Think about when you're hungry, or when your little kiddo, he's hungry, or your students are hungry, that's stress because there's stress on the body. So your body will get dysregulated. Lack of movement for long periods of time, negative imagery can help put stress on the body, which will make it dysregulated. Isolating from others, and here's a big one, worrying. If we worry and we're worrying, that can also make the body dysregulated because it's feeling stress. And so that's why it's important. It's extremely important that we look at our self-care strategies. And a lot of times with dysregulation, the bad thing about it is a lot of times, and this is what I heard a lot of teachers before COVID-19 when I used to do presentations, when they become dysregulated because they're under stress, they're fatigued, they're not getting sleep, they're not taking care of their body, and then they go and they're around, they have students, and sometimes someone might just say something, even in your household. It could just be your child or your spouse says something and you're dysregulated because you're not using your self-care. And then you say and do something that you regret. And I've actually had teachers, and it makes me want to cry. I actually had teachers that would cry and say, I love my children, or I love the students, and I wish I hadn't have said it. I wish I hadn't have done it, but I did it. And this is important. And please, this is really important. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person, you're a bad teacher. It means you are a stressed person, a stressed teacher, a stressed counselor, a stressed psychologist. And those are cues that we need to be aware of, specifically because it's one of the things we really push on. It's not bad behavior, it's stress behavior. And so if any time that we find ourselves dysregulated, it's really important just to take back and go, okay, wait a minute, I need to practice one of my self-care strategies. So while I keep talking about self-care strategies, why don't I show them to you? All right. So I love this one because I actually thought, okay, the Navy SEALs have some of the most difficult challenges ever. Their life, when they're on the beat, when they're actually active, what they do can either save a life or it could cost their life or their team's life. So they have to be able to stay calm, and they have to be able to be productive. And so I wanted to find out, okay, if these guys have got it, these guys are the professionals, what do they do? What's their trick? And I thought I was going to get something else, because I do talk a lot about breathing when I do a lot of my presentations. But lo and behold, the Navy SEALs, one of their top strategies is breathing. I'm like, really? Yeah, really. And so, and it made perfect sense to me when I started to think about it. Think about when we're stressed. Think about when we get irritable or when we're dysregulated. What do? Our chest might tighten up, but our breathing pattern changes. And the more stress we're under, the more challenged we feel, we start to breathe heavier. And what does stress do to the body? It makes it feel that there's a threat. And anytime there's a threat to the body, what it does is it makes the body go into dysregulation. And when you're dysregulated, you can't think. You can't plan for the future. It's only here and now. And when we're at home, when we're like at places, it's important working with our kids remotely, we need to be in that upper brain. And so what the Navy SEALs do is they do this 4 square breathing. There's tons of breathing techniques out there, but I thought, hey, these guys are the professional. I'm just going to use them so I can share with you all. I want to give you guys the best. And so what they do is they do these 4 steps, and they keep doing it. That's the key thing. They keep doing it until they feel focused and they're relaxed. And what these breathing techniques do, whether you use this one or another one that you're already currently using, it's bringing you back to that rhythmic pattern, that your breathing becomes a rhythmic pattern. And that's important, because that rhythmic pattern, that's why you keep doing it, actually will calm you down, and it will bring your less stress, and then you will become back to regulation again. This is a really important slide. It's about promoting self-regulation in small doses. It's extremely important that you get up every 20 to 30 minutes and do a 5-minute movement exercise. Now, I'm not saying that walking and exercising for 30 to 45 minutes, a couple times a week is bad. Actually, all the research will back that it's a good thing. All right. But sometimes, and I'm just going to be honest here, my office is actually in my bedroom, and I sit on the floor. My husband, got me this a laptop or a lap table. I like to sit on the floor, because then I can look outside. I can do my brain breaks. Okay. But I also need my movement breaks. And the reason why is any of us who sit behind a desk or sit behind a computer for most of the day, we get muscle tension. And what does muscle tension do? It causes stress. And what does stress on the body do? And the stress on the mind do? It causes us to go into dysregulation. And that makes it difficult for us to think and concentrate. And that actually happens when my muscles are hurting. I need to just get up and walk around a little bit. And so it's important that we do a bunch of little proactive dosage throughout the day. And it's really simple. A lot of these, it's like just walking up and down the stairs, just to get that movement, just to get that your muscles up and going again. Walking outside, it's important for us to stay regulated. And also another thing that you could do just to have these small doses of just movement is if you've got like household chores, like laundry. The other day, I was feeling muscle tension. I was having a hard time concentrating. So I just got up, I went down, and I folded some laundry. Now, did I do all of my laundry? No, but I felt good about it, because not only was I feeling good, my muscles were feeling good, my blood was pumping again, but it's one less thing I had to worry about after work, and so another thing too, that I thought was really cool when I was doing research, you can actually have fun with these small doses of movement. It's like your kiddos need to have movement as well. Our bodies are built to move. So when we're not moving, it's stress. And so I know I've read some things that some people were actually turning on music for 10 to 15 minutes with their kiddos and just dancing. Or in this picture right here, it's just, you can even have fun with like a push-up challenge. Like, whenever you just want to, you can get your kids and have some type of challenge. Let's see how many push-ups you can do. Can you beat dad? Can you beat mom doing this? And that could be fun. But sometimes we just have 5 minutes. If you're doing a long Zoom, chat with somebody, and you're talking with your students via Zoom or Schoology, and you only have 5 minutes before the next one, sometimes just a good old stretch is what we need. And I know we all like, oh yeah, I know about stretching, but this is the time to be radical. We need to really start doing this, especially if we're sitting behind a computer or a desk. We really need to start doing this because we need to keep our bodies and we need to keep our minds healthy. And so stretching the muscles, getting that blood flowing, working out those kinks is really important. My favorite one is on the middle, on the bottom. That is an excellent stretch. But what you can do is I just went to Google and I just typed in stretchings for people who sit behind a desk for most of the day. And I've got like 50 of them and I just pulled, these. But I mean, you can pick whichever ones work for you. But like I said, you can have them. You can say, yeah, I know that, I do that, but it's important to get radical that it becomes part of your daily exercise, your daily self-care. I'm going to admit, I used to have a really hard time talking about mindfulness during my self-care presentations because I couldn't relate to it. But the definition of mindfulness is being present and fully engaged with whatever you are doing in any given moment. And the reason why I couldn't relate to it is because a lot of times it was talking about yoga and meditation. And for those of you who do yoga and meditation, I am jealous. It's like a gift. And because I know people who actually, when they do it, they tell me their lives have changed for the better. It has made such a profound impact. I'm not one of those people. I've tried. I really honestly have tried. And I can't get into the meditation and yoga. And so I was talking with a good friend of mine and he brought something to mind, something of attention. And it's kind of like yoga. We can do yoga in minutes, especially for that stepmom, or not stepmom, forgive me, especially for that single parent, or even if you've got kids in if you're trying to take care of your students and then you got 4 of your own kids in the house, so you don't have that 20 to 30 minutes to do the yoga. Alrighty, so you can do like yoga in minutes. It doesn't have to be a production. It could be simple as just washing your hands, feeling the warm water go over your hands. It's about being in that moment. It's about the other day, I thought, why not? I just put my feet, and I put my feet under warm water, and I just watched the water, and I felt the water go over my feet. I was in the moment. These are something simple that you can do. It doesn't have to, like I said, it doesn't have to be a production. Take a walk outside, walk around, feel the sun on your back, feel the breeze on your arm. I know somebody that told me about a couple weeks ago, and if you're listening, I know you know who you are. She said, actually, for the first time in 2 years, she smelled the spring flowers in her front yard. That's a shame because her flowers are beautiful. And for 2 years, she has missed them. And she was practicing mindfulness and she might not even have known it. But it's just about being in that moment. And another one, grounding technique. A coworker was talking to me about grounding technique the other day. It's about 5 things I see, 4 things I smell, 3 things I touch. And what that does is it can take you from having it's kind of like a stress think mode where you're on your work and you're calling all these kids and you're making all your documentations, and then you just need that break. You just need that mindful moment. And that grounding technique can actually bring you back into like a more focused, and think about all the mindfulness that I'm talking about. It works on your senses. Your hands and your feet are so sensitive to any type of touch too. That's with the warm water. And it's almost like mindfulness reminds you that I'm alive, and I'm breathing and I feel it. That's really mindfulness to me. Also on here, I have a video in the middle. It's imagery-based relaxation experience. It's a YouTube. If it's something that if you just want to have that 5-minute, 10-minute mindful break as well, pull up this YouTube video. It's wonderful because somebody will bring you to a regulated state by just doing that rhythmic breathing. And then once you're at that state that of regulation, you actually take a little tour through the woods. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful YouTube. I used to share it a lot with my self-care, and I got a lot of positive feedback from it. And then also there's Healthy Connections. It's Healthy Connections WV. And they actually have a webinar actually tomorrow during Mindfulness During a Crisis, a Survival Guide. But actually, I know of you at 1 o'clock, you'll probably not be able to watch it. But the cool thing about this on Healthy Connections from West Virginia, they actually post all of their webinars on their website. And so if you don't have time to watch this webinar tomorrow at 1, you probably won't. Go at it at night, go watch it at nighttime or maybe on the weekend when you have a little bit more time, just to get some of that, some other tools, some suggestions from mindfulness. Alrighty, so I talk a lot about Bruce Perry, and so I had to show him to you. He is one of the leading experts on working with children and adolescents who come from abuse and neglect families. And so this is one of his books, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. Well, Dr. Bruce Perry talks a lot in his books and in his webinars and lectures about how we are social creatures. It's our nature. And because of this is really probably why we're at the top of the food chain. And you think about right now with COVID-19, we got everybody helping one another. It's a perfect example of how we are social creatures. People are volunteering their time. People are actually donating their own money. People are coming up with ways to help the elderly who can't go out and get food, or people who can't afford food banks. It's what we do, especially in times of need. We come together and we connect. But most importantly, he talks about how we are, emotionally, we are, with our emotional state is profoundly influenced by the people that are directly in our life. So how we feel, our moods and our emotion, it's based on who we have in our lives. And this is indirectly, whether it could be Schoology, Zoom, Skype, your phones, using your videos on your phones, however you do it. Or it could be directly in your home. You have physical contact, with your spouse, your children, that connection. And so it's important. So he has this wonderful saying, it's, staying physically distant while remaining emotionally connected. I love it. One way we can do that, one way we can keep physical distance but keep that emotional connection is by creating a contact tree. And I know a lot of you are already doing something similar to this, and I think I high-five you, and I love the stories that you share with me. But really, a contact tree is about checking in with 2 or 5 individuals once or twice a week. And it doesn't have to be the same individuals. One week you can call 2 individuals, and the next week you can call 3 different other individuals. And before you know it, you've got a contact tree that is your internal support system. It's already there. And I know, like I've said, a lot of you are already using this. You're calling your family, you're calling your friends. I love that I have a contact tree, and a lot of my coworkers are part of my contact tree. And one of the good things I guess I can take from COVID-19 is that I have been able to talk with my family and coworkers that I haven't been able to do in a long time. It's because this is how we stay connected now. And it's helped me when I needed it the most. And I think that creating a contact tree and having it and using our contact tree, especially if we know someone out there that is more of a social person, but they're telling you, I'm missing my family, I'm missing my kids, I'm missing this. You might want to add them to your contact tree. You might want to say, hey, come on aboard, come be a part of this, because it's that social connection emotionally and physically. It does make us healthy. It's a great self-care strategy. It really is. And so I love this saying. I read it somewhere. By staying connected, we weave social fabrics. By staying connected, we weave social fabrics. And that's really the biggest power buffer, against stress. It really is. This is a really good slide. I love it because it's another thing that we can take positive from COVID-19. It's robbed us from a lot of stuff. Well, guess what? We're going to take back. And so basically, this is about seizing the moment. It's about being connected. Remember what Bruce Perry said, Dr. Bruce Perry, forgive me. Dr. Bruce Perry said that, we are social people. We need to connect. We have to connect. If we don't, we get dysregulated. It's innate. There's nothing we can really do about it. It's just who we are. And so this is a time that we can take this opportunity to connect physically. Those of us who need that physical, we can connect physically with our family, with the ones that are in our homes that we love so much. And so I actually used to do this even before I did the self-care, or this COVID-19, even before. I used to do this at the schools, and I had some teachers come up to me and say, I did it, and it really works. It was really great. One teacher actually came up to me and said that he asked his son, and his son said, let's go fishing. So he said it was really a wonderful afternoon. So it's about, the challenge is about, you have me. You go up to your spouse, your children, you have me for X amount of minutes. What would you like to do? And a lot of times when you're in that moment, when they say, I want to color, I want to play a video game, shoot some hoops, a lot of you talk to me about baking. you're baking, and just think about the wonderful memories that you're building with your kids, and you're having that laughter time. And kids need this, especially because kids know there's stress going on. They know, they see you, they watch you. You're the adult, and they learn from you. And here's this, we can see outside and with our cars, we can drive, but a lot of times the kids, they don't know what's going on out there. They hear the news, but they don't understand it, but they feel that stress. That's one thing about kids, is they're good at feeling that stress. And this is one way that we can connect with them and help their little bodies, or even your adolescent, help his or her body to stay regulated in a time when we so badly need it. This is a really good slide too. I love nature, so I like this slide. But the environmental psychologist, you can do a lot of research that shows that how just being outside improves our mood, reduces stress, improves cognitive functioning, which is all important that we need right now, especially with what we're doing, taking care of our kids, our family, our students. In the Environmental Protection Agency, I found this, like, when I read it, I was like, this is significant. 93% of us actually, and maybe even more so now, the majority of us spend 93% of our time indoors, okay? So 93% of our time is spent indoors. We live in West Virginia, so I'm hoping that West Virginians aren't spending 93% of their times indoors, especially because the Journal of Inflammation Research, there's so much research on there that shows just by earthing, which is a really big topic now, just by having contact with Earth's surface, boosts the immune system, improves sleep and circulation. Think about when your little kiddos are outside and they're playing in the dirt, and then they come in, and they have that sound sleep, and they're like sleeping soundly. That's because Earth just did you a favor. It basically, it improves their sleep patterns. The Journal of Scientific Research, actually, this is a great one. It shows that just nature sounds can positively affect the stress response system, meaning you can have a kiddo or an adolescent or an adult at a fight-flight stress response, but just by turning on some nature sounds, you can actually promote self-regulation in yourself or your student or your child. And here's the thing, I've actually had some teachers say, you know what, after listening to that, I started putting nature sounds in my classroom, especially during times of transition. It works. Of course it does. The research says it does. But you know what? High five for the teachers that are doing that. And it only means because they care and they love their kids. But before I did this, and their students, I went on the web just to find out, because we have so many beautiful state parks here in West Virginia. And these are the ones that are open. And I kind of try to go around the whole state so you could see. Chief Logan State Park. If you live in an apartment or you live in the city and you want to go out, take advantage of the beautiful parks you have around you. Chief Logan State Park is open, Grandview Park, Valley Falls State Park, Hawks Nest, Watonga State Park, Beach Fort State Park. These are a great opportunity. On the weekends, go for a walk. Take your kids and go for a walk. It's a great self-care strategy. All right, so let's not get stuck in this negativity, right? So there's a fine line between staying informed and giving into our egos that so love drama. Now, come on, we all go through those channels and we all search that web just to hit that next shocking piece of information. I don't know why we do it to ourselves, because what happens is we take ourselves from a regulated state and then we shock ourselves, into this dysregulated state. But a lot of times it's like, what is she gonna do next comes to mind. So we have to figure out Facebook, what's she gonna do next? And it just puts a lot of stress on us. So it's important that we take a break. Okay, I'm not saying don't ever do it, but just take a break from watching, reading, or listening to negative stories. And the biggest culprit, and you're gonna pull up any self-care, and this is gonna be number one, be careful of how much news you're watching. And this is a great thing that I heard from a webinar. Check the news instead of watching the news. And here's the thing, if any one of you watch the news instead of check it, they talk about the same thing over and over and over again. It's like you're not going to miss anything if you just check it. It's like a different person wearing a different outfit saying the same thing. And and every time it comes back on the news, it's like a big screen. COVID-19, and it's almost like da, 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 and it just can take you from a relaxed mood into oh my gosh, what are they going to say now about COVID, the coronavirus. That's why it's really important that we just check time to time. And so I had to, of course, back it up with research. It's my background. I love research. And I go for the ones that have significant results. And this one did. Just 3 minutes of watching negative news in the morning can significantly increase your chances of a negative experience of the course of the day. So 3 minutes in the morning can negatively affect the course of your day. And so that's why it's really important that we're careful. I'm not saying don't watch the news. We need to. But just be careful with how much you are consuming regarding what we're reading, listening to, and the stories that are negative. So on another note, we got to do positive. And we can have positive just by reframing how we see things. And it's like these 3 grandmothers are awesome. There's actually a video, if you have a chance, YouTube it. They're wonderful. They took something which could be negative. They're elderly. The elderly, are the ones that are getting, they're told, like, my mother has been in a nursing home for a month now without coming out, without having visitors. And so, because we have to take care of our elderly, where they're taking something that could have been negative and they turn it around, and they're really having a good time while being isolated in a home. And like I mentioned with my mother, there's so many great things that people are doing. A young couple had their kids color a whole bunch of pictures, and then they taped them on everybody's window, and all the elderly people were just so happy. They would get up in the morning and see what this little child had done for them, And gratitude journaling is another one I want to mention. It's a way to reframe. When you go to bed each night, you just write down 3 things that you're grateful for, and not, I woke up breathing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I made cookies and someone said, this is the best cookie I've ever had. I'm grateful for that, or whatever it is. A student said, hey, Miss Jones, I really miss talking to you. That's something to be really grateful for. I took a walk today. I felt good about it. That's something to be grateful for. So you put those in your journal, and then you can always wake up, and first of all, it makes you realize the whole day wasn't bad. And second of all, when you wake up in the morning, why don't you read 1 or 2 of them, and that will let you just get you off with your mood on the right path, on the right foot. Alrighty, so we have compartmentalizing by controlling the controllables. So a lot of you probably had a chance to hear Dr. Jim Harris talk with his presentations, but he has this saying, he always has this saying that it says, sometimes we get stuck in admiring our problems rather than solving our problems. And the funny thing about this is I've heard him say this like 20 times, and every time he says it, I'm like writing it down as if it's the first time I've ever heard him say it. But the reason why is because it always hits me hard. He's like a Brene Brown. It always says it's something that I just need to hear. And so it hits me hard. And so actually, going back to the slide here, it's important that we stop thinking about what we cannot control. We can't control if we can't get a hold of our students, if we can't contact our students. Yeah, we gave it our best shot. We're calling, we're sending these things out. We can't control that they're not getting back with us. But we can start thinking about the things that we can control, Think about the things that you can control. For instance, but I can put a letter, in the mail. I can put a letter in the mail, and then hopefully they'll get it. Think about anybody. Think when I get a letter, when I get a card in the mail, I'm like 4 years old again. So I think that's something that we can do. So it's not about what we can't control, but what we can control. And when you do that, you get some wins. You get some wins on your plate, and you feel a lot better about things. And so I love this slide because it's about reinforcing our purpose. Educators, we love our students. We're trying to help our students succeed. Even we're home remotely, we still want them to succeed. And so it's important that we just do the best that we can. We just do the best that we can. Look at these little girls. Sometimes I cry when I see this because these little girls are missing their teacher. And these little girls, and I think it's a little boy, missing their teacher. And it's because the teacher she put time into them. Those little girls know that their teacher loves them. They know that, and they miss their teacher because those little kids, her students it's about her students actually. And so we have to remind ourselves of the mission why we do things. every time I talk to teachers, and not just teachers, forgive me, social workers, school counselors, psychologists, administrators, you know why you all do it? Because you love your students. You love students. You know, and for those of you who you love to help your students, you love to teach your students. And guess what? Being with students, helping them cope through some hard times, teaching them to be successful, that is so rewarding, especially down the road when you see that individual and they say, you know, you see this, you know, or down the road you see an individual that says, you know what, you were my 5th grade teacher and you really made a big impact on my life. That's the purpose and why we do it. And we need to take those home. We need to keep those on our back pocket, because when we're down, those are the stories, those are the memories that get us through such tough times. And that's a powerful strategy. Well, we always have to have an action plan, don't we? Let me check my time. I want to be careful here. Yes. Okay. We always have an action plan. So I'm not going to go through it all, but like find the activities that could be restorative. You know, develop realistic and reasonable expectations for yourself and for your family. Give yourself that grace if needed to. You know, give yourself a grace period. Have some fun. You know, make a balance between work, rest, and play. And, you know, and sometimes recognizing that you're going to have different needs at different times. You might feel great on Friday or on Thursday, and then come Monday and Tuesday, you may not. Or you might feel powerful in the morning, but by the evenings, you are spent. So realize that you're going to have some needs at different days or different parts of the time. And what self-care strategies can you put into that to get you through? All right, here we are. I love this picture. This is my work family. But from left to right, everybody here put a lot into this webinar series. And on the left, we have Tiffany Hendershot, who is the behavior support specialist from the Eastern Panhandle. Then we have Alicia Zeman, who's the PBIS program coordinator for the Technical Assistance Center. And then we have Amy Kelly, who's our director for the Technical Assistance Center, and Jen Everhart, who's the behavior support specialist for the Mountain Region. And there's me. I couldn't be Terrell Jones, behavior support specialist for the region. I couldn't be at this academy, so I'm not in the picture. But anyway, they're wonderful people, and I love them. So here's some websites for those of you who want to go and get a recorded webinar, whether this one or the other 4 that we have done. Just go to the West Virginia PBIS.org website and go to the homepage. And when you get to the homepage, scroll down to the bottom, and you're going to see something. You're going to see the word media. Click on that media, and when you click on that media, it's going to come up. You're going to get our PowerPoint, and you're going to get the webinars. And so you can look at it whenever you want. Another great website is our West Virginia Behavioral Mental Health Technical Assistance Center website. And on there, you can get some more information about us behavior support specialists. Or a great thing is you can click on the training tab and click on At a Glance, and you'll be able to see all the services that we offer. We can offer you the schools, and it's not just school-wide, it's also early childhood. We've got some awesome early childhood people on our team. Dr. Amy Carlson is the program coordinator, and she is like the rock star if you ever heard her present. And then we've got Jess George, who is like awesome, and then we have Sarah Smouse, who is totally brilliant. And it's just, these guys are great. So please take advantage of looking at a glance on how school-wide and early childhood would be able to help you in your school. And even at home, you know, at home, we're here to help you be with your students and how to better be with your students from home. And then we have the West Virginia Department of Ed came up with this wonderful, wonderful website on to give us information about coronavirus 19, and it keeps us looped in. It's important that we stay connected even with information, and they know the importance of it. That's why they developed this website, and it's amazing. I look at it myself. And then, of course, you have to have the resource. Here's just some of the resources, really, Dr. Stuart Schenker and Dr. Perry, some wonderful webinars if you have some time during the COVID-19. They've got some excellent sources. All right, so I think that is it for my slide, for my show here. Amy, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Terrell. I'm glad you got your email up there. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. But just quickly, we really didn't have any questions. We had a couple great comments. Some folks that were agreeing with anxiety and sometimes feeling overwhelmed by all of the Zoom meetings and webinars and just how different our world is now. Hopefully we all are feeling a little, some comfort from the release, or the plan that was released by the governor yesterday. I definitely appreciated his PowerPoint. His visuals were easy to follow. But we have a link up there that one of our, Alicia, the PBIS coordinator, came across this article on how some side effects from Zoom meetings. So you might take advantage of, look through that article. And as Terrell said, this will be posted on our website. It generally takes about a day, maybe 2 days, just to do some edits and get it up on the page. But we will also have the PowerPoint, and once you go to the site, you will see everything that we've done in the month of April, which will also include the PowerPoints, handouts, and recordings. We appreciate you guys participating. We've had a great response. This is actually the final presentation in this series. We do have some great things that are coming up in the month of June. We're going to use next month to prepare for that, so you can look for some more information about that coming soon. So thank you, Terrell. Thank you, everyone that participated. And you guys stay healthy, and we will see you soon.
For more information regarding the West Virginia PBIS project, you can go to www.wvpbis.org. For more information regarding the West Virginia Behavior Mental Health Technical Assistance Center, you can go to www.marshall.edu/BMHTAC. For the most current information regarding the West Virginia Department of Education's response to the COVID-19 crisis, you can go to www.wvde.us/COVID-19. This site also has resources for families as well as educators.